tonight we're going to talk about the Bhagavad Gita of Krishna, and I hope that you'll find that interesting. We have the sound up? Oh, yeah, okay. And it's good to be with you, and I'm glad that you're here, so we'll get right into it, and you'll join with us as we search out the Bhagavad Gita and see what Krishna has to share with us tonight. We're at 35.6 on those papers. I hope it's bright enough out there. I'm just trying to hold the lights down to keep some of the heat out of here. At 35, what is it? It's cold out? Is it really? I don't know. I'm perpetually warm. Perpetually warm. But anyhow, 35.6 on this sheet of paper that you have. And what's Krishna saying? This is interesting. Even the wise man acts in character with his nature. Even the wise man acts in character with his nature. Indeed, all creatures act according to their natures. That second line, all creatures act according to their natures, is simply saying there is a purpose and a distinct reason that each individual is alive and acts the way they do. We were talking before. A cat is not interested in dog things, and a dog is not interested in cat things. They just aren't, and they never will be. You'll never get a cat to sit down and chew on a bone. Never. Never. And you'll never get a dog, unless he just stumbles there, to go in and use kitty litter. I mean, it is not the nature. They just will not do those things. And so what he's saying here is that all creatures act according to their nature. Now, the animal follows an instinct, and that's a divine instinct, right out of the pineal gland. Human beings have a choice. You can either follow the lower mind. If you don't follow meditation, then you do. You follow the lower mind, which is the lower animal instinct. And if you follow meditation, you're following the higher mind, which is divine instinct. See? And that's the enmity. That's what the Bible calls the enmity against God. The carnal mind, Romans 8:7, is enmity against God. It is not subject to the law of God, neither can it be. And that's really quite a statement in the Bible that, not too many people pick up on. That is that your lower mind is not subject to the law of God, neither can it be. And so, where does guilt come in? We construct it. Where does sin come in? We make them up. Who says, where is there a book that tells you where are the sins? What is a sin? Depends on who you are, depends on where you live. Things that are sins in this country and in our culture are not sins in other countries. Oh my God, bigamy is terrible. You go into some places in other remote parts, it's a perfectly legal and normal thing. So what's a sin? Some churches say if you smoke or if you drink, and other churches, the ministers or the priests smoke and drink. So, where is it? You make them up. You decide what you want to be sins, and that's what you make up. Has nothing to do with that at all. It has to do, actually, the word sin, and actually what it means, if you want to take it to its deepest context, is simply separation from the right hemisphere of the brain. That's what sin means. You're separated from that which is the right hand of God. You're separated from that which is your true nature. That's sin. But interestingly enough here, it says, even the wise man in 35.6 acts in character with his nature. Indeed, all creatures act according to their natures. What is the use of compulsion in? So what's the use of acting religious? What's the use of saying prayers? Because you're going to be the way you are anyhow. It doesn't make any difference. It doesn't change a thing. The only thing that you're going to do is you're going to act religious when you're in a church. But once you go out of the church, nothing changes. Nobody can ever change you because that's the way you are. Now, oh yeah, okay, if somebody that drinks and is drunk, that winds up at Alcoholics Anonymous and he goes on the wagon, yeah, that's changed. He's staying away from a particular thing that causes him to go completely berserk. If somebody stops taking drugs, but I'm talking about your personality. Your personality is always going to stay the same because that's the way you are. You're acting according to your nature. Some people, their nature is to be loud and boisterous and wild. Other people, their nature is to be kind of withdrawn. But you're never, ever going to get a person who is quiet and withdrawn to be loud and boisterous. And most of the time, you're not going to get a loud and boisterous person to be quiet and withdrawn. That's the nature. That's the way it is. So now what's the sense of going through all the charades and making believe that something's going to change you? There is nothing going to change you whatsoever because there's no reason that you should change. All you have to do is plug into yourself, light up that which is your true nature, and follow a course. Follow it through. Allow it to be. That doesn't mean, you can take it to the extremes. Oh, well, if a person's speeding all the time, that they should speed. No, that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. I'm talking about your personality. Some people just will not like you the way you are. There are people that don't like me. I know. It's hard to believe, but it's true. Hard to believe, but it's true. And there are people that just will not like you because of the way you are. So let us then look at that word. What is the use of compulsion? What we do, what is compulsion? We plan, we act, we try to get others to make decisions, but all we're doing is reacting to the negative mind, and we just gets us further and further and further in the mess. So we act on our urges, and this is what it's saying. What's the sense of this compulsion? What's the sense of trying to do all of these things? Because all you're going to wind up doing is the same thing anyhow, but now you're going to get frustrated because you weren't able to do what you wanted to do in the first place because you did what you were going to do. You're going to do what you're going to do anyhow. All the time you're going to do what you're going to do. And you know doggone well, if somebody gives you advice, the one thing you're going to do is when you get back to where you're in your secret place, you're going to go and set about to say, heck with that. I'm doing it the way I want to do it, and I'm going to do what I want to do. And that's the way it is. That's the secret of it, and that's your nature, and that's all of our nature, and that's the way we are. And it strikes home because you realize that's true. And so what here is being said is that one thing that you can do to get away from that which is the carnal or lower nature and to allow yourself to act out which is a more profitable scenario for you is enter into meditation. Go into meditation. We're talking about a person that we have ministered to. I don't know if you like to use that word, really. We went up to see who has cancer, and we told him about meditation and so forth, and we heard today that he's not doing too well. And, but his wife, he didn't know about coming down here on a Tuesday night because it might be strange. I'm going to tell him, hey, come. What the heck is that? What do you got cancer. They're going to write the last chapter of this book of yours. Come down here. I mean, do you have anything to lose? If they're saying, this is a terminal, what in the world can you lose? But even at that stage, it's hard because, that's not what we're used to doing. And so we stand our ground and continue to be the way we've been. And, if it kills us, it kills us. And I don't say in any way, shape, or form that coming down here is going to cure him of cancer. That's ridiculous. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is use everything that could possibly benefit you. Use everything that's been instructed from the ancient to plug into it. Who knows? Once you touch that, all bets are off. Who can say? Who can say? Nobody can say. Now look at this 35:7. The love and hate which are aroused by the objects of sense arise from nature. Do not yield to them. They only obstruct the path. That's very important. Because nature here simply means your human nature. And we love to do, we love to go, we love to get. And what does it do? It obstructs us from our meditation. There are people that should be here, but they can't be here because I've got to go somewhere. I've got to do something. I've got to be this. I've got to be that. I'm working here. I'm doing all of these things. And what this is saying is that is obstructing you from really flowing with life. This is obstructing you from really touching life. This is obstructing you from really finding out what life is all about. When we hate, the passions of our hate, the angers, keep us from meditation. So love can be just as much a hindrance to our meditation as hate can be. The things that we have to do that we say are so very important because we're going to go out and we're going to do this and we're going to go out and we're going to do that are hindering us from really stepping into meditation and finding out what life is, as well as the things that will cause us to hate. So if we have so much fun that we don't have any time for meditation, then our pathway really to life is being hindered. And if we're so angry with the world that we refuse to enter in and break the traditions and enter into meditation, both of these things hinder us from the really true path of life, which is our own path. And I'm not saying you have to come here to do it, but I'm saying you're hindering yourself if you don't take yourself to that place of meditation, wherever it may be, whether it's in the bathroom, whether it's in the car, whether it's in bed, wherever it is. It's your private thing. But if you get so preoccupied with either your passions to get even or your needs to go out and help or do whatever you're going to do that you don't have time to do this, then your pathway is hindered. And that's what Krishna is saying. And look what he says again. The love and hate which are aroused by the objects of sense arise from nature. Don't yield to them because they obstruct your path. There is something that will always get in the way of your spiritual path and convince you that you should be doing something else. And he's saying, don't yield to it, no matter how beautiful it seems to be, or how much you have to go because you're so fed up with this or that. Don't yield to it. Both things come from the human nature, and both things are going to obstruct you from the pathway into nirvana, into the pathway of consciousness, and into the pathway of that which you call God. And there you see it. And that's written thousands and thousands of years ago. Love and hate. See? That's an interesting thing. Love and hate, aroused by the objects of sense, arise from nature, and they will obstruct your path. Matthew 6, if you can just look for a second with me to page 6 in your little Bibles, in Matthew chapter 6 and verse 25, Jesus Christ says something that's really, really interesting. When he talks about separating from the senses, what here Krishna has said to you is that love and hate both, okay, arise from nature, arise from the senses, and obstruct your pathway to that which is the holy place. Here Jesus Christ is saying in Matthew 6, verse 25, therefore I say unto you, take no thought for your life, what you shall eat, what you shall drink, for your body, what you shall put on. Take no thought. Now, he's not saying don't worry about it. He's saying take no thought for it. Sure, you want to have things. Sure, you're not supposed to go around looking like or feeling like a bum or not having any food or not having any clothes or not having any job or not having... But he's saying the way you get it is by taking no thought. Because what you're doing is you're going to turn off the negative aspects of your brain which are confusing you and sending you in the wrong direction, and you're going to turn on those things which are the cosmic expressions, the divine instinct, the divine part of you, which is going to guide you to the place that you can be made worthwhile. By whatever, prosperity, call it whatever you want to call it. See, it is the mind of meditation that is the salvation over the senses, because the senses confuse us. I tell you right now, every step of the way that we've gone in the CTN television thing, it's been done for us. I never had the courage to change anything. It's always changed of itself. Here we are, we started at 7 o'clock, 3 in the afternoon, somebody changed it to 7. I don't know if this is any good. Then it went from 7 on Saturday to 7 Tuesday. I don't know if that's any good. Then it went to 10:30. I don't know if that's any good. I said, that's no good already. It's at 1:30. Here we are at 1:30. I don't know. In the morning yet. The one thing I would never say, go 1:30 in the morning, I don't want such a thing. We got more calls than ever. Frank says, here we're beating our heads together trying to go up against Dan Rather and all of these programs, and we aren't any competition for them, so on 1:30 nobody's on. And everybody calls. But who knew that? We don't know that. We got to get dragged every step of the way until finally we get it right. The point is you arrive at that in spite of yourself. If you're into meditation, and that's what we do meditate, and we are very deep and very profound about our meditation. It's very important, you know. I was speaking with John last week, and we were talking, and he's very much on, you know, you got to have a proper diet, and you got to do this, and you got to do that, and you got to purge your system out. And he says, that's just as important, you know, just meditation. Well, it's true, but see, I'm such a fakakta, I wouldn't know about having a proper diet until I meditate, and the spirit on the right side says, don't eat that. So I go to the Chinese now, I eat lo mein all the time, and I feel better. But I had to get that from a divine mind. I had to be able to, my habits of doing things changed by the impulses and the instructions that come to my mind when they're open. Otherwise, I don't know. And I still got a long way to go because I still am a sucker for the freezer and the... What kind of ice cream you got now? Chocolate layer cake ice cream? I mean, how can you not eat that? German chocolate layer cake ice cream in the freezer. How could you not eat that? You would have to be some kind of like a penguin or something not to eat that. The only one don't want to eat that's the cat. Everybody else wants. I guess she would eat that too. So what do I have to do? Say, I have to then continue to enter into deep, profound meditation so that I can think clearly and I know what to do. It's about you. I do not worry anymore about jobs or things like that, not because I am not concerned. I've got to take care of Joan and the family and all of this, but I know in the only way that I can within myself, everything's going to be okay. Everything has to be okay, and you have to get to that point. And you will get to that point because I remember one guru I studied, he said, what this is, you're standing on the bank of the river of life, and you have an inner tube around you, and you're going to hold your nose and jump in and let this raging river take you wherever it will. And that's it. And you know what's beautiful about that? It's nature, and nature never takes you to the wrong place. Divine nature sweeps you up like it takes a goose or it takes a migratory animal and brings them to the place that they should be, where they can spend the year in warmth or whatever it has to be that they're trying to migrate to or migrate from. It's always the right thing to do. Okay? So, when we look at this, and it says, the love and hate which are aroused by the objects of sense do not yield to them. They obstruct the path. Look at page 148 in your New Testament. Look at the book of Romans. Go to Romans chapter 7. Very interesting there, something Paul says, okay? And now, look, here's the guy that wrote the Bible. Here's the guy that wrote, abides faith, hope, and love, and the greatest of these. And this is the Bible guy that writes on. And this is what he's got to say. And it's really something that we all should look at and spend a little time with it and take your time as you read it. Okay, Romans chapter 7, verse 24. O wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from the body of this death? There he is. In other words, he's saying, I can't, what am I going to do about this? What am I going to go to church? Which one? You know, because everyone is telling you that the other guy is wrong and you should stay with them, and then you get in all kinds of trouble there, because no matter what church you go to, even this one, after you've been here a certain length of time, you get in a fight with somebody and you say, I ain't going back there anymore. No matter where you go, that's going to happen. You're going to meet somebody you don't like and say, oh, that place, I'm not going back there. Or I'm going to say the wrong thing, he doesn't care, he doesn't like me, goodbye, and you're going to find some other guy, and then he's not going to like you, and in some other place you're going to meet some, whatever it is, life goes on like that. How am I going to get out of this? Verse 25, I thank God through Jesus Christ, so then with the mind I myself serve the law of God. With what? The mind. What's this whole church? Everything that you've learned in this place, everything that I shoot my mouth off about is the renewing of your mind. The only thing that you have that you can serve God with is your mind, because the only place that God exists in the universe is in the mind. It's the only place. There is no man anywhere sitting on a planet named God. Say. There is no man anywhere sitting on the planet named God. That is even bizarre that we could even consider such a thing, but most people think there is an older guy on some planet named God. And he's got a son named Jesus who he is about to put on his spaceship and send him back after he annihilates half of the world with an atomic bomb. This is our teaching state. There is no man named God anywhere. God is sitting in this room. God is standing here. God is sitting there. God is humanity. God is that which is the divine energy of humanity, and God is that which is nature in all its magnificence, that gives you life, that gives you all of the things that you, for the most part, all of your life have rejected, but now are starting to find that I will open myself to that which is God. You will say God doesn't exist? There are how many billions of people live on this planet, and God knows how many live elsewhere. Who knows how many planets are filled with people running around? What, 10 billion people on this planet? 10 billion people on that planet? 600 billion people on that planet? 50,000 billion people on that planet? And they're all God. So how are you going to say, do you believe God exists? Certainly he's sitting there with a red shirt on the fourth row. Get his autograph after the show. Certainly God exists. But you know, we make it into a story. We make it into a fairy story. How could you believe such a thing? No wonder nobody believes in God. But you know what they've done? Remember what I told you? I told you that down from the claustrum, which is the North Pole, the North Magnetic Pole of the body, comes the gift of life. What did they do? They made Santa Claus come from the North Pole with toys on his shoulder down your chimney already. And what we're talking about with the claustrum and the gift of life from the North Pole is a very scientific principle of the human body. No, we've made it into a fairy story. And the same thing you've done with God. We've made it into a fairy story. How could you believe there is a man on a planet waiting for his son to come back? And this is it. He is going to ride all the way from this planet he's on, which is beyond the universe as we know it, on a horse. No wonder 2,000 years, he wouldn't even get out of the backyard already. How long would it take you to get to the sun, Albert? Forever. And a horse you couldn't ever. What? But this is honestly the belief. And it is something that the one who they called Jesus Christ, he said, no, this isn't true. It's within you. It's within you. How else could this be? It's within you. So I say, is there a God? Yes, but this God chose, like an atom, which is him, to blow himself into billions of particles, and you are each one of us apart. The Apostle Paul says it's one body, but it's many, many different parts. That's who it is. What's wrong with that? And I know, but not only is this universal God concept blown into millions of human parts, it's blown into millions of tree parts and doggy parts and cat parts and ocean parts and all. It's a magnificent thing. But we're looking for one guy somewhere presiding over this city with gold streets and all of this stuff. That's all these people want. They want to go up there and walk on streets of gold. Do you know what a street of gold means? A street of gold, a street is just what it's a pathway. Gold is the color of God, the pathway to God, right here. But what do they have? I'm going to walk up streets of gold. That's what they sing in their, and I'm going to wear me a crown. That's another thing they always sing in their God. I'm going to wear a crown. Oh, I'm going to wear a crown. Do you know that the crown is of the Kabbalah? The crown of the Kabbalah is the highest place of human consciousness. That's the crown. It's Kabbalah. It's Jewish. It's Jewish mysticism, the crown. But we take it and we're going to wear a crown, like, the little king. What can you do? What can you? And this is the belief. They believe this. So where do you go with this? Okay. And here then the Apostle Paul says, with the mind I can... Do you see that Romans 7, verse 25? With the mind I myself serve the law of God, with the flesh the law of sin. But how can he serve? You say, how can he serve? You mean, with my mind I can serve God. But understand which mind it is. Go to the very next chapter there, Romans 8, okay? And go to verse 7. The carnal mind is enmity against God. It is not subject to the law of God. So he's not talking about the lower mind. He's talking about the renewed mind, the divine mind. That's the only way you can serve the law of God is in the divine mind, because the only place that God exists is in the divine mind. That's why you got to sit at the right hand of the Father. Because the Father, look, the Father is your higher mind. That's what they called, that's why Jesus says, the Father in me does the work. He could have said in English, the higher mind within me does the work. And everybody would say, oh, I can understand that, I can accept that. You don't think there's a real Father inside of his head? A little man running around, writing rules? No. Then he says, the Father's in you. What do you don't have a little man in your head running? Well, now maybe you do. I don't think. You don't have a little man running around in you writing rules. So what do you have? The Father. You have the higher mind. Jesus said everybody's got a Father in them. Everybody's got a higher mind. And what comes from the Father? The seed. And it impregnates the mother, which is your spirit. And then what happens? You have a little Jesus born in you, of a virgin, no thought. And that's the way it is. And that's the whole story. It's an allegory, but it happens in here. But we created another thing with that. We got camels, and we got all of this stuff, and we wouldn't have it any other way. It's beautiful, But it's very sentimental. You can have Clark Gable, but this is what we want. And even with that, you wouldn't tell the truth. You're going to say the astrologers came and discovered him. No, we can't say that because they wouldn't allow it. But yet that's the truth. The Magi came. And the Magi, the root of the word magic is Magi. They were astrologers. The tribe of Magi of Iran was astrologers. Nobody can change that. That's why. Let me ask you something. Why? Who is this creative God essence? This so bad astrology. What the heck? Why didn't they pick priests or ministers? Why didn't they pick evangelists to find this little boy in the manger? They didn't pick evangelists. They didn't pick bishops. They didn't pick popes. They didn't pick priests or ministers. They picked astrologers. Who? That's the greatest joke in the world on these people, isn't it? The one that they picked to discover Jesus was astrologers. 3 wise guys from Iran. Give me a break with this. I can see the guy sitting there. I told you so. Hey, 3 wise guys from Iran. Is this? And that's where they're from. The Magi were from Persia, which we call Iran now. It's exactly what they're. And there is nobody that can deny that. Nobody. Doesn't make we can laugh about it, but you can't deny it. They were astrologers. They were from Iran, and they were the ones picked to herald the Christ, because they read the stars. And of course you're told the stars are not to be read. That's evil. But the Bible says they're for signs. So what do you believe? Believe them. Don't believe this book. But carry one under here anyhow, because it looks nice. You look religious when you have one of these, but don't believe what it says there, because it'll get you in trouble. Okay. Look what it says in 35:7. The objects of sense, do not yield to them. What do? You've got churches, you've got denominations, you've got religions coming to you from all over the place. You got to do this, you got to do that. You got to follow this path, you got to follow that path. You're not going to be allowed to be one of us unless you do what we say. So what do? Watch this one. I love it. I love it. Read Krishna with me and just lift yourself into the bliss of this magnificent voice. 35:8, it is better to do thine own duty, however lacking in merit, than to do that of another. It is better to do your own duty, however lacking in merit, than to do that of another, even efficiently. In other words, when they tell you to do something, give them this, get out of my life already. I am doing as I am told from within myself. To thine own self be true. There is a voice speaking to you from 7,000 years ago saying it is better to do your own duty, even if you don't do as good as you think they could. Doesn't make any difference. You do what you're propelled to do much better than doing what somebody else tells you to do. That's why I can't see what's so beautiful about this church. I can't force you to do this. I can't make you meditate. You could even sit here on a Tuesday night thinking weird thoughts or whatever you want to think and saying things under your breath as to what a screwball I am and nuts to you. I can't do anything. Absolutely powerless to do anything. I can't prove you're doing it or not doing it. It's irrelevant. You have to find this for yourself, and then once you find it, no matter what I tell you, I say up here, oh, I think this and this. You say, well, I don't get that. You're right, you didn't. It's not what I said. It's for you something different. That's the beautiful part of it. You're an individual. You become an individual, you become a temple unto yourself. You have a different job to do than I have to do, so it means something different to you. Then run with it. I'm not asking you to believe anything. It's not necessary. And what I'm asking you to do is think for yourself. You can disagree with me. Do it. Who cares? I can't prove anything anyhow. So what the heck we got to disagree about? Are you going to disagree? You're going to prove it? You're going to prove? You can't prove. What are you going to prove? Nothing. So we all got to say, well, that's the greatest thing. Well, I don't believe this thing about reincarnation. Prove it's wrong. Well, I can't prove it's right. You can't prove it's wrong. But we can talk. We can think. And we can enter in and get the truth. And that's the exciting part of this. Because I don't care what anybody says. Now, I know in my heart, if you do this, you'll run smack into the truth. And the only thing that'll stop you is yourself. It is better to do your own duty, however lacking in merit, than to do that of another, even though efficiently. Now, look at this. Watch the next sentence here. It is better to die doing one's own duty, for to do the duty of another is fraught with danger. How about that? Huh? It is better to die doing what you believe and what you are propelled to do by that which is the divine than to do what because once you do that which somebody else, you never ever know where he or she got that from. You never ever really know what you're getting involved in. Never ever. Fraught with danger, and most of the danger is everything you're doing is from the outside, and everything that is divine is going on the inside. And that's dangerous because you're totally separated from that which is universal, that which is God, and we have no idea. What did Jesus say? Physician, heal yourself. Fraught with danger. What about all? Remember that Jim Jones group? I mean, these people. But you know what? You know what's the sick part about it? Not Jim Jones. Not those people. The sick part of it, that people would get so desperate to get away from this that they would do that. How desperate, how hurt, how broken were those people that they would sit and sip this poison in order to get out of here. That's the sad part of it. And do you know what? You can walk out of this place and you can walk up through the streets of most cities. You can walk down in Atlantic City and see them all over the place. People hanging out in a gutter wherever. And you know, they're by the millions, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. And so the thing here, that is, if this world is going to change, don't do that in another. There was just a revolution in Russia. What was that revolution all about? We're not going to do what you say anymore. We're not going to follow you anymore. We are propelled now to change this thing. And I was interesting. I've been telling you folks here that I felt very strongly that the next big one to go would be Cuba. And, of course, I'd like to see that as quickly as possible, because when Joan and I go down to Key West, we can take a little boat over to Havana, you know, and I'd really like to. But if you heard Mr. Bush today, he said, and it was a strange thing. And, I mean, I'm not saying, you know, glorifying him or glorifying this system. I'm not. Any way, shape, or form, because there's a lot that has to be done spiritually to make this right. But, all right, one step at a time. But he said today something. He said that Mr. Castro regime is going to go a lot quicker than he would ever think. He says, I just got a feeling about this. And watch. And watch. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's just people not allowed to think. That's all. I mean, this place over here is it's terrible things. But, you know, there are changes, and each culture will be subjected to the changes of this new age. I don't know what the types of changes are going to be made here, and I'm not prophesying anything. But those places that are first on the list are those places which have totally subjected people to where they can't think, and that upheaval will go on. But Jesus Christ said it. He said, physician, heal yourself. And over the oracle at Delphi, it says, to thine own self be true. And that's a beautiful thing. Let's go on for just a few moments and do page 36. We won't do all of page 36, just a little bit, okay? Now, Arjuna, who's the divine personality in you, asks a question that's going to take us back to Romans 7 again. And this is the question that Arjuna asks. Tell me, Lord, he's talking to Krishna, tell me, what is it that drives a man to sin even against his will, as if by compulsion? In other words, what is it? You know what compulsion is? If you look up in the dictionary, it's an irresistible urge. You know what you've got to answer. Just you know, don't look at me if you want to close your eyes because you don't want to give yourself away. But you know what irresistible urges you have that you have to do. And I'll let it go at that. But you do. You know. And then many times you get guilty. Not because there's anything wrong with this irresistible urge that you may have answered, but because the system said. They put their black dot on it because they got to keep you in guilt, you know. God, when a little child finds his private area for the first time, I mean, you know, my God, you know what, you know, as a little child, what's that first thing you think? Oh, I'm the only one that knows this. Oh, God, you know, nobody else in the world knows this but me. Oh, you know. It's your little secret, you know, because everybody else, you know, put your hands, get your hands away. You know, here are the two sexiest buzzsaws in the world telling us to look, get your hands away. And we all carry these things around with us, you know, in our little luggage, our little closet. That I am the only one that knows I've done this horrible thing. See? What is it that drives a man to sin even against his will, as if by compulsion? Take a look, if you would, with me then. Notice it's done against your will. Go back to page 148 in those little Bibles of yours, Romans 7. That's where we were a minute ago. Romans 7, and go to verse 14. And look at this. For we know that the law is spiritual. Do you see that? Look at that and read it again and let that jump off the page to you. It has nothing to do with going to church or what you eat or what you drink. It has nothing to do with your sex life. It has nothing to do with what you drink or what you smoke. It has nothing to do if you play bingo or slot machines or anything of the kind. It's spiritual. See, that's what it's saying. We know, we don't know, Paul, we'll look at it here. We know, okay, that the law, where am I? Oh, excuse me. All right. We know that the law is spiritual, but I am carnal. Now there you got another thing altogether. See? And he's not saying he is and you're not. We are. So we have a spiritual law. Look at what we got here, would you? We've got a spiritual law This is all us, you know. But we have a carnal us. And Paul's saying, what the heck am I going to do? I'm over here. How am I going to get over there? Because, I mean, this is where the law, see, this is what I'm trying to tell you. The law, God, the universe, religion, whatever you want to call it, it's all spiritual. And spirit means a non-entity separated from that which is human. That which is nothingness, if you would. That which you can't touch, you can't see, you can't feel. It's in there. So he's saying, but I'm not that. I'm not that. I blow my nose, I go to the bathroom, I burp, I do all these crazy things, I smoke a little this, I want to take a drink, how am I going to get over there? Go to verse 15. For that which I do, I allow not. This guy's a preacher. He's writing the Bible. He's saying to you, don't do this stuff. But I'm doing it. I don't allow people to do this in my church, but I'm doing it. And I'm the Apostle Paul. What a confession written in this book. A magnificent thing. Love him for it. Love the book for it. What a confession. That which I do, I don't allow. But what I would, in other words, the things that I do allow, that I don't do. But what I hate, that's what I do. Ha! You know, you can really sit down with this guy and have a discussion. Have him over for some counseling, Joan. Say to Paul, what you should do is say, Nam mio ringate kio. But did you see what he said? And he's writing your Bible. And he is telling you these things that you should do, but he's admitting he can't do them. He knows what's right, but he's admitting I can't do that either. What am I going to do? Tell it like it is. Did you see it in the book? Is it written in there? Certainly it's written in there. Now, that which I do, I allow not. I do not approve of what I do. And look at verse back to Krishna at 36:1. Arjuna is saying, what is it that drives a man to sin even against his will? What does Paul say? That which I do not approve of, is that's what I do. So it is not my will that I do this, but I do it anyhow. Just letting everybody know. So that takes a lot of guts because there's not too many preachers. I mean, when Joe and I went into that gay club down in Key West because I wanted to see. I don't want to take other people's words as to what a group or a culture lives like. I want to go there and I want to see it. I want to sit down with people. I want to talk to them. But I could have very easily, don't say anything when we get back to it. I don't want anybody to take it. See? That's hypocrisy. So we said, well, that's what we did. If I go down to Atlantic City to see a show or whatever, I'll tell you. See? So what? It's bad? Who said it's bad? Where does it say you can't go see Nipsey Russell in Atlantic City? Where does it say that? Where does it say you can't play a slot machine? Where does it say that? It doesn't say that. They made it up. They made it up and said it's sin. And they've got millions of people who come to church and say, yes, amen, and then as soon as church leaves, they board the bus and head for AC and into Bally's anyhow. You think all those people down in the Bally's and all aren't Christians? They're all going to church. The only guy that's not down there is the pastor. Because he made it up that it's a sin. He doesn't know why, but he made it up that it's a sin. Because they're liable to lose the money and they can't come Sunday and give it to him. But so the other guy's justifying it down here. He's saying, well, I'll tell you what, Madge, I'm going to try just one more time, man. If I hit the 3 sums, I'm going to give 50% to the church. Well, he's going to lose, but, that's how he justifies it, and the other guy, so that's what we do. So it all comes out of, then, what is right, what is wrong. And Arjuna asks a question that Paul was asking. Why are we like this? Look at 7:19. The good that I would, I do not. But the evil, which I would not, that's what I do. This is the guy that wrote your Bible. It's in the book, isn't it? You see it? Is it in yours over there, wherever you are? He wrote your Bible. And he's out finagling around. Gets home, gets a little Bible study done, writes a couple of, I'll write the book of Romans, and I'm going over to Lou's house. Don't tell me something. That's what he said. If he didn't do that, he shouldn't have said that. That's what he said. Was Jesus what they call him? A wine bibber. That means he's out with the boys. Down at the Jerusalem A-Go-Go. There he is. Here's a guy looking in the window. This is the only begotten Son of God? Why? Because it's you. That's why. And it's me. That's why. And that's what the story's about. Not any sanctimonious wisps out of the emblems or entrails of the universe. It's talking about human beings. People. You and me. We don't have any problem with that. We make believe we do. We make believe we do when we go to church. But in our hearts and in our minds, we don't have any problem with that stuff. Perfectly all right. Nothing wrong with it. There isn't anything wrong with it, except that we put people on guilt trips by making it sin. Whatever the majority of people do, we call it sin. And we get everybody on guilt trips, and then they'll come to church, and we can save them. I don't know why I do this. Look at 36:1. Why? 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 Why is this? And look what Krishna says, Lord Sri Krishna, which means Christ the King. 36:2. It is desire. It is desire. It is aversion. Look at it. It is aversion born of passion. You know what aversion means? Turning away. Turning away from the path of enlightenment. And that's what makes you so frustrated. First of all, you should be able to have a good time and not feel guilty about it. That's what the system has done. That's what the churches have done. That's what the pastors have done. That's what the evangelists have done. They've taken everything that you've always had a good time with, made it sin so that you feel guilty about it. Second thing, okay, is that when you turn away from this path of enlightenment, you get totally consumed with that which is the lower mind, born out of a desire of what? These are the desires. If you look in a dictionary, it will tell you that passion is three things. Anger, love, desire. That's passion. And what Krishna is saying is the things that screw us up are the things that we hate so much, the things that we love so much, and the things that we desire so much. And he says that's desire. It is aversion born of passion. And look what it says here in 36:2, and then we'll end this now. Desire consumes and corrupts everything. It is a man's greatest enemy. In Psalm 10:3 it says, the wicked boast of his heart's desire, and then blesses the covetous. In other words, desires to have what others have, which the Lord abhors, it says. And that's the thing. You got to always, and believe me, and I understand this, and there's things that I would like to have and things that I would like to do, but thank God now, through meditation, they're put in their proper perspective, because I understand what is the ruination of my body, what is the ruination of my mind. Not doing this, not doing the other thing, but constantly dwelling in this desire to get, do, get, do, get, do. Raising myself to the anger level, which sometimes when you're too tired that can do. Getting into a situation which you are just enamored in. What can mad, passionate love do? When love turns into passion, look out. All hell breaks loose. There is a woman on television today on Phil Donahue's show that loved her daughter so much. She wanted her daughter to be the head cheerleader that she made a contract out on the other girl's mother to kill her so that her daughter could be the cheerleader. That is passionate love. And what would it do? She loved her so much. She wanted her daughter to have everything, even to the point she would kill for it. Even to the point that she would kill for it. Anger? Well, you've seen it. You know, I don't have to tell you what anger does when somebody goes into a rage. Desire. We just fought a war in Iraq. Why? Saddam desired to have it. He wanted to have his way. Bang! Before you know it, thousands of people are getting killed. And this is what Krishna is telling you. That these things are the things that cause us to do things that we know we shouldn't do. No, we don't want to do. Let me just read this. 36:3. Let's just read it together, okay? I'll read 3, 4, 5, and 6. The words of Krishna are magnificent, and you should listen to them. As fire is shrouded in smoke, as a mirror by dust, and a child by the womb, so is the universe enveloped in desire. Isn't that beautiful? It is the wise man's constant enemy. It tarnishes the face of wisdom. It is as insatiable as a flame of fire. It works through the senses, the mind, and the reason, and with their help destroys wisdom and confounds the soul. Therefore, O Arjuna, first control your senses, then slay desire, for it is full of sin, and it is the destroyer of knowledge and of wisdom. Isn't that interesting? The universe is enveloped in desire. It is as insatiable as fire, because unless it's put out, it consumes everything and then finally consumes you. Never stop. I can tell you that, like a situation with a person who becomes an alcoholic. I told you about my father who was an alcoholic. And it wasn't too bad when it started. I remember as a kid. And then it got worse and worse. He had to have more and more. And he lost his job, and he wound up working in a amusement park and everything, and just got worse. And it just, you could see, just like it says in Krishna, just the fire got raged further and further out of control until finally it consumed him. And as I was 14 years old, I walked in the door of the house, and there was something that looked like a lamp in the doorway. And as I got closer, it was my father hanging in the doorway by his neck with a top. Consumed him. Consumed everything. Consumed everything. It wasn't kind of a desire that he could even turn off anymore. Couldn't do anything about it. But you know what I'm talking about. You know what Krishna's talking about. It says it confounds the soul. Because then everything is a failure. You don't know what the heck to believe. I don't know. How could this be true? Everything is, it's a disaster. One period in our life, my mother and I lived in a cheap hotel called the Esquire Hotel, down Neck in Newark. It was a really bad place. It's the only place we could get a room. It was during the war. Anyone have any? My sister lived with her girlfriend somewhere. My one brother was in the Army. My other brother was living at this hotel someplace else. My father was living at... Everybody was in a different place. And it was all originating out of this chaos that came as a result of this drinking. But it just went to the... I often wonder what would have happened to him. This man was a brilliant man. This man was the chief interior decorator at Macy's department store in New York City back in the 30s, I guess, 40s. He designed the floats of the first Thanksgiving Day parade. He used to take me as a little kid and sit me up on the top of Macy's and then over at Bamberger's. We'd sit and look down on the floats in the parade. People used to line up outside of store windows in New York Macy's, and around Christmas time they'd part the curtains, and his windows would just explode with life, all things moving and all of these. It was like Walt Disney, this guy. I thought, what? I was thinking to myself, what would have happened if he had found this and was able to lift himself and break away from that which clutched him and she couldn't. I mean, that was a man like that just before he killed himself wound up, and I'll never forget the saddest part of it, that the Newark police used to bring him home, drag him out of a lot with a bottle they called Muscatel wine. It cost about 25 cents in his hand. See, absolutely destroyed, and couldn't do anything, couldn't change it, and as he tried, and in spite of that, never did we go. This man went from that prestigious job to working part-time at an amusement park selling hot dogs, and then he'd go to what they called Dugan's Bakery at that time, and he'd work down in Newark making buns and all of this stuff. We always ate. Always ate, always had clothes, in spite of that horror that he was going through. So there, out of his right side, out of his deepest Christ consciousness, was this urge, this instinct that whatever I do, I will feed my family, I will take care of the children, and I will do this. And then that was the Dr. Jekyll. But Mr. Hyde come on, and he'd kill you in a minute. He would kill you. I mean, but boy, he was something. I tell some stories that sometimes that he could bang when he was drunk. He'd turn it on, turn it off. I've seen nights where, Tommy, I guess you've been in these types of things where it was like the OK Corral. I mean, people were fighting, knocking each other downstairs, over banisters, over couches, and I was a little kid. My mother would hold me, and somebody would throw it. My brothers would jump on him, and it was horrible. My mother we never even had a telephone. We didn't have a telephone. And she'd run up the street to our doctor, and he'd call the cops, and the Newark police would come, and they'd come in, and everybody would be quiet. And my father would come down with a bathrobe on. What's the trouble, officer? Hi, Mr. Donahue, we had a complaint. Well, you know the way the kids and everybody act up. I'm sorry if they caused any noise. Just a little family squabble, you know. Try to get them under control. Cops would go, and I would cry and say to the cops, I would pulling on the cop's leather jacket. Don't go, don't go, don't go. Because I could never understand that, you know. He didn't see what happened here. He said, don't go. And the cop would pat me on the head. It's going to be okay. Don't worry. Everybody's okay now. Everybody's going to bed. No problem. And they'd walk away. They never knew. Now what they know. That would be it. Then he would take things up in his bedroom and start throwing them up against the wall. Oh, you know, stuff. Hey. But that was part of an experience, a learning experience. And you know, when I come and I get into and teach this, that I understand what this is talking. Once it grabs, it destroys, and you can't stop it. It is the destroyer of knowledge. It is the destroyer of knowledge. Let me just read this, and then we'll pick it up next week. Listen to what Krishna says, and I'll leave you with this, and just love Krishna for this, would you please? Begin to respect Hare Krishnas and those people. It is said that the senses are powerful, but beyond the senses is the mind. Beyond mind is intellect, and beyond and greater than intellect is he. These are the people that religion has warned you to stay away from. How sad. Thank you.